materials are?
You can't really force a guy over to buy it. I mean, they're getting it any way they can.
I mean, they have good relationships with these major paint suppliers. It's just, it's going all over the country and the quantities are limited, so they're.
But it's not slowing the project down.
No, it's not slowing the project down, but I mean, Colin's hair's gonna look like mine.
I'm working.
He has worked very hard to make Hillcrest happen, I will tell you. I mean, the procurement of materials is difficult. He's on the phone. People will tell you it's coming next week, and then you call, it's on a truck, and then you call, well, where is it? Well, it's not really on a truck, but it's on a plane, it's coming to the truck. Like every time you ask a question, it's somewhere, but it's not at your site. And he's constantly pushing and pulling to make things happen. So I give a lot of credit to Colin and to Mark for keeping submittals moving. It's been a team effort.
It's amazing, that chandelier coming in the front. I mean, it's just coming along, starting to pop in the last few weeks.
It definitely looks nice. I mean, it's definitely a really nice building for the kids. I think they're going to feel really good in that building.
Thank you.
Doug, wait, we're having a sound issue. Resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. So here is the plan. Mary Ann, you were asking about the plan a little bit.
Yeah.
This is the front of the building. The gym is the orange piece in the bottom right-hand corner. We have the same thing we had at Hillcrest. We have the admin addition on the front, and we configured the administrative area a bit. We have the library kind of right behind it. That gets renovated, similar to what we did at Hillcrest. Almost everything is exactly as Hillcrest was. So the right-hand side in the middle is the expansion of the boiler room and building services, the location for the chillers and the generator and the transformer, building services stuff. And then up to the top, we connect those two classroom links going up horizontally. So we have an alternate for the first row of 5 that make the connection. And if we do go with 5, that connection comes with the corridor. Schrader Group did a really nice job creating the ability to link the corridor so you don't have to go back around, even if you only put 5 classrooms on the building. So the circulation is greatly improved, and if you go with 10, then that top row kind of gets tucked right against that part to give you your 10. So it's a really nice solution. All of the walls, the partitions, just like Hillcrest, are basically staying in place. This isn't like a lot of the jobs where we tore walls down and went crazy. We're doing an infrastructure upgrade, all new MEP systems, life safety, security, and then finishes. So and a roof. From a site standpoint, right now, buses and cars are all pretty much going in the lot together. What we're proposing here is we're putting in a bus loop off to the right. This very wide mouth where the parking lot meets that bus loop will be actually blocked off during the day, right? I think we have some concrete islands and some gates to separate that. So buses will come in that first drive to the right, they'll loop around, they'll come back, and then kids will enter into the side of the building just like they do at Hillcrest. Hillcrest side lot faces Holland Middle School. That's the same orientation that this would be. So they'll pull in, drop off, and leave. Parents will come in the other drive. They'll loop around this existing lot at the bottom and then curve back around, come around the front, and then lead back out that driveway. So we'll have clear separation of buses and cars. We picked up some additional parking spaces as well. And then you can see on the top of the sheet in the darker gray, all 10 classrooms are shown on this. And then above that, you can see how much we're cutting into that hillside. I don't think it's very... So these lines show the grades in the hill, low to high. I think, what is that dimension, like 12, 15 feet?
Yeah, it's 10 feet of retaining wall and then another like 2 or 3 feet you're playing with on top of that wall, level it out.
So we have some images of that, but we're putting like a concrete block retaining wall in with a learning stair / kind of community space in the middle, which I think serves the district well and the people using the soccer fields that might want to grab a lunch or something on the weekend.
We use a different entrance for the students at the beginning and end of the school day on the right side of the building. Then is the main entrance at the front, right?
Yep, the main entrance is here.
And that's functionally the way we do it at almost every school we do these days, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're able to create the, the bus entrance and the drop-off entrance here. And it's
Yeah.
nice
So-
separation. You have kids coming from both directions.
Yeah.
But ending up,
So it's a single entry point at the front for the entirety of the day, except the drop-off. and pickup.
right. During the day, this is the only point of entry for visitors
Right.
or staff coming here. Unless the other thing we have is we have the existing railroad tie steps out here that are in pretty bad shape. And since we're touching this and doing this work, it's advisable that we put new steps in. So this is more of just a utilitarian concrete walkway and then steps to get you up to the field as well. And these are just some renderings, Mark's group put together. Do you do these, Mark?
We all do.
Yeah, they're impressive. I think you put column in there.
Is that Kyle, skinny Kyle?
So this is the back of the site. This is showing the 5-classroom addition with that corridor lane that Schrader created. So if you're coming down this hallway, you can turn the corner and you can go back down the hallway now instead of coming here, turning around and going all the way back.
We did something similar at Wrightstown.
We did.
Yeah.
Yep. And then those are the solar panels on the roof. We have about 50% solar on this project.
Without the 10 rooms, 50 and maybe slightly less.
Yeah. Yeah, they do help with
Once
that.
we have more.
And then you can see here that site wall that we're cutting back. And what we're putting that site wall where it needs to be for the 10 classrooms regardless. We're not going to move the wall around. That always gives you the flexibility if down the road, if you went with 5 and needed 5 more, you could put those in that grass area without a problem.
Question, would you have a preference on where the 5 would go versus the 10? Where would you start? Because there's 2 sections of 5. Is that the crazy question to
You'll
ask?
see in a second.
Yeah,
No, it's not really.
there's the other 5.
Oh, it'd be stacked on top of it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so you really have to build that first set before you set the next set in. So that's the next 5. So you can see it gets closer to the hill. But what we didn't want is people looking out those classroom windows and looking at a stark concrete wall. So we introduced that tiered wall with some trees in it, so you still see some green looking outside and not, concrete. And here's the 5 classroom addition with that grass area and the walls to the left. You can get a sense of scale for just how big that wall is. We put the fence along the top because we don't want anybody obviously toppling over this, and there's a lot of activity on the hillside, so we want to safeguard against anyone getting hurt. And this is what happens with the extra 5. So the 10 classrooms bring you closer to that wall. And you can see looking out the window, if they're working with green landscaping, you can get a little bit, it would feel a little claustrophobic too, without the step wall. And here's kind of looking back at that teaching area. There's 2 sets of steps, utilitarian steps to take you up, the risers, and a teaching board in the front, much like we did on the other projects. And you can see the distance from the top of our wall to the flat top where the soccer fields are. We put some additional chain link fence at the top to keep the balls from coming down, toppling down into this area.
That grade, that's 12 or 15 feet, I think you're taking out of there.
So that's quite a bit, that's what I mean. Looking at the cost of the 10 classrooms.
Yeah, a lot of material coming out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the cost of this project.
So how much light is being lost by adding that, the second set of 5 classrooms on those first 5 seconds?
So
How did you capture, how are you getting light there?
We're not really losing it that much light at all, because on the existing Richboro, those are just walls with no windows in them. The end of the corridors, all the windows are on the east and west sides, of that on the back, so you're not losing any light really.
we were going to try to get some barred light into this.
Yeah, there's a little, so every classroom will have a window, and then we were thinking about adding a monitor or like a clear story light across the middle section for the the 3 classrooms that are gonna kind of be against the existing, with that U on the back, and there's 3 classrooms that are right there. But every classroom, either way, even if we don't do the monitor, the clear story will have nice daylighting.
Thank you.
Doug, could I give pause to let the board member on the phone ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Roosevelt, you have any questions?
I do. Thanks very much. And thank you, Doug. And I understand there's a member from Schrader there. Thanks also for attending this meeting. Looking at some of the renderings, I do have a couple of questions. The first one is pretty easy. The walls, the tiered walls that hold the greenery that flank the learning stairs, they appear to either be wood or perhaps board-formed concrete. I don't know if you guys can illuminate us on that selection. You guys just picked up on a topic regarding daylighting from both. If we went with the full 10 and not move that wall back further into the hill, have we done a solar study to ensure that light still gets in there? I liked that I heard a monitor was possibly being added on top, which would certainly help that. And then finally, I think we were talking about sulfimestone last year, and the design was much further progressed. And that I also believe, as well as this, was a LEED Gold project. If you could just, for the edification of the community, explain what LEED is, as well as explain who made that decision and how it was made. And at that time, I had mentioned well building standards, which obviously was too late to implement for that project. But clearly we've got time to implement that into this. And Doug, you had indicated that you were going to look into it. I wanted to understand, had that been looked into in preparation for this project? And perhaps the member from Schrader is more familiar with it, as I would expect. Understandably, I recognize that you didn't at the time. So those are largely my questions here. Thank you.
Sure. So the concrete retaining walls they're actually a precast, pre-manufactured concrete unit that stack on top of one another, they interlock. So that is a product that will be designed and specified, and actually a little bit later on is that delegated design piece that I'm asking for the approval for the design of those in advance. But that is a pre-manufactured unit that almost set together like Legos that are heavy and set in place, and a natural, they have options for color, so we'll pick a natural color. The solar is definitely not an issue because the orientation is appropriate, and it's just a question of how many panels we can put in depending on how big the building rooftop is. So we can add more and gain more value for the solar, we will. It is a LEED project, and I can let Mark talk about LEED, but before I turn it over to Mark for LEED and well buildings, we went about this by achieving an ACE grant, awarded an ACE grant for the district. So for Hillcrest and for Richboro L, Dewey was able to get the ACE grants. And at the time those grants were awarded, the monies were not as plentiful from the state as they were on the other. We were able to get, I think, up to $6 million on 3 prior projects. This project we were able to get, so those were $2 million each for 3 different projects prior. We had about $830,000 each for Hillcrest and for Richboro, and the money comes if you achieve LEED Gold. So we absolutely have to achieve LEED Gold to get that money, and we plan on doing so. We are in good shape. We have commissioning agents and LEED consultants that helped with the other, and we're in the same boat on this project. I'll let Mark speak to.
Real quick, Mike mentioned that sulfimestone was LEED Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Hillcrest, sulfimestone is not a LEED project that was available to find for that one.
That's right.
But Hillcrest will be,
Richboro is being designed as a LEED Gold building as well. In terms of well building, I'd have to look into that and see if that's an option. I'd check with our we have a lead consultant on Richboro and Hillcrest, so I will ask them if it's possible, and I can definitely get back to Doug to deliver that to the board.
Yeah, we'll certainly look into the well piece, and I know we had talked about that, Michael. We just have to be certain that anything we do doesn't compromise the lead goal process. So as long as we can accomplish both, or attempt to, and there's no major budgetary issues with adding the other piece of that, I mean, that would be a good thing to do regardless. So I'm anxious to look into it with trade.
Anything
Yeah,
else,
you'll
Mike?
find even that there's some ample amounts of overlap between well and lead.
Okay. I think we answered all your questions.
You did. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. So this is one last rendering. It's just kind of looking, if you were coming from the Star Center direction, driving past the building in the lot, you see what the building looks like. Now, one of the things we aren't doing on this project, and we did do at Hillcrest, you see metal panels kind of across the, going back across. One of the alternates we were considering was replacing all the stucco soffits with metal panels, but there were cost-cutting measures on Hillcrest, and we'll do the same thing on this project for parity. We'll take this, pare this down to what we did at Hillcrest. We won't even suggest putting in other clear stories and some of that other, the second canopy and all those things we took out. We're just going to take out from the get-go on this project. The Act 34 hearing, just to quickly review that, it is, applies to all new buildings or substantial additions, and basically if it exceeds 20% of the existing floor area, you need to have an Act 34 hearing, even if you're not going for a plan con approval, a plan con approval. So there's a moratorium. I don't know when or if plan con will ever come back. They won't even accept submissions at this point. For a while we were submitting in case, but now they just send it back. They're not even interested in seeing the paper. So the purpose of the Act 34 hearing is, to describe the proposed additions and renovations to anyone that wants to come out and attend the hearing. We present the estimated costs, the total project cost, the financial needs, the local tax impact. So PFM will be there to assist with that process. They'll speak to the numbers, and it's an opportunity for the community to comment and pose any questions. And those questions come through a written question process following the hearing for the next 30 days after the hearing. So any questions they have, they send them in to the district, and we can, as a team, answer those. This is basically just the Act 34 hearing piece that I talked about earlier. These are the dates and deadlines for just the Act 34 piece. So I'll work with Andy to make sure we get on the schedule for these. And then the last slide is some costs that I want to get on the agenda, board agenda. I know the next meeting is the 15th of September. I don't know that I'll be in front of you again before that. So I wanted to bring these up. There's geotechnical services we need for some additional borings at Hillcrest, or at Richboro, rather. We want to use the same geotech that we're using at Hillcrest. This is an amendment to their existing proposal. So for $10,000, they'll come out and spend a day and do some additional testing for us, specifically where that wall is going to go. We want to make sure where the additions go. There isn't any subsurface conditions we have to worry about with the structural design and where the wall goes. We want to make sure that when a contractor puts their shovel in the ground, that they hit rock, that we know there's rock, and that they bought the rock up front. We don't want any surprises. So the $10,000 is to pay for that. And that cost is included in our total project budget. It's not additional monies that we're asking.
Okay, thank you. How many borings do they have to do for that area, would you say? Is there a standard?
We just think I believe we're doing 6 just for that back area. Kind of 2 where the first row of spots when you do 2 for the second, and then a couple on the middle. I think it's important to the 10,000. That's almost like an allowance. So if we'll do borings, we see we get to do a couple more, we'll do them. And then also the infiltration testing is important because with the additional rooms that we're doing, we may have to look at stormwater calculations again, and we may have to redo some infiltration tests. So it gives us a little bit of buffer, it allows us to quickly get them on site, performing the test, and then obviously if the money isn't spent, it goes back to this project and other places. So it's a good value to do up front. It tells you a lot about what you're getting into before you.
What allows us to, that's what we use when we put this information in the bid documents is information available to bidders, and we have an alternate for unclassified rock excavation. So the contractor, some projects, you pay them for every unit of rock they encounter at a unit price cost. Or you can build in hey, give us an alternate price if we were to make this project unclassified. And they may say $5,000. And then we take a look at their number and we say, all right, if they hit rock where we suspect they'll hit rock at a unit price we know is reasonable, we're going to spend that $5,000 in the first week. Let's just go ahead and accept their alternate, pay them $5,000, give them the $5,000 up front, knowing that we're probably going to pay substantially more for rock and they're going to absorb that cost. And it happened at So Fine Center. These guys paid a substantial amount more than the actual additional cost we paid for that rock fall, so we're in good shape. So this helps us figure out, in addition to the design, if it's a value for us to do that.
The clean fill certification is very important too.
That's right, because any soils they export off-site need to be clean soils. If there's certain materials in that earth that they're taking somewhere else, and DEP discovers, they want to know where you're taking earth when you leave the site. You can't just go dump it somewhere. So they make sure that what you're taking is clean soil. And if it's not, then we get fined because without the owner, it's fine. It's our project. So we make sure that it is. We have a clean fill certification, knowing that our site is clean. They show DEP, hey, this is good stuff. Here's our cert. And the double ring infiltration testing, as Colin said, it used to be that stormwater would just discharge into a big pond and then slowly discharge back into stormwater somewhere off your site. But today, they want you to lose the soil or the water on your site. So they want it to infiltrate back into the ground and not just sheet across and shed on the neighbor's property. So we have to make sure that wherever we are proposing these stormwater basins, that the ground will take the water in. So that's one of the reasons we have to do the double ring test. The second piece is the delegated design versus owner design for that retaining wall we're talking about. And a lot of projects, you would say, all right, contractor, provide us with the retaining wall, you design the wall, and submit it to us, and our engineers will look at it and we'll approve it. The problem is we want to get these materials as quickly as we can. We don't want to create any delays in procuring materials. So we can design the wall up front. As part of our process, we'll tell them exactly what the product is, what the rebars are in the wall, whatever the concrete mix is, whatever they design, foundations, and it's a bid package that's part of our bid package at the contractor prices. And that way we don't have to worry about delays where the contractor doesn't submit the calculations, we send it back. Then they give us something, the engineer says, no, we still don't have what we need. Now we've lost 4 weeks and we don't have a product. So this allows us to expedite the delivery of the product. It's $5,000. Frankly, you'll pay that to the contractor in their bid because they would design it anyway. So we're just taking responsibility for it. So that would be the same company that's doing the testing that would design the wall. So those are the two things that we will be bringing to the board in September. And that is all I have.
Oh, that's great. We lost some members. Any other comments
Yeah, just
regarding that?
I need a clarification question from Mr. McKee. So he's asking, or has asked me privately, is there any value to moving the kids from Richboro, making that move up? I remember you put a timeline together tonight. You mentioned something about moving Chancellor possibly over to Richboro Middle School. Is there any value to moving Richboro Elementary School to Richboro Middle School earlier, knowing that there are conditioning issues with error?
So thanks for that, because I had received a similar question.
I think that was the
From Mr. Hickey, yes. And I think the question is, as Mr. Salamon said, is there any value in moving students from Richboro Elementary during the course of this current school year? We discussed this some time ago at a committee meeting. We talked with Dr. Jordan at Richboro Elementary, And of course, Danielle and team are happy to do whatever we think is best and would support that. I spoke with Danielle again today. Clearly, we couldn't make that happen between now and the start of the school year. It'd just be impossible. But she thinks, she believes that because we will be well underway in a few weeks, that the teachers and students and families would be best served if we started and ended the school year at Richboro Elementary the way we have planned. But of course, if that's the direction we decide to go, the next logical spot, I think, and Doug, you probably would agree with this because of time, would be over the winter break, would be the only natural break that we would have to try to pack up a building and move.
I would agree especially if we would have to put bids out for moving and we need time for teachers to pack. And there's a lot of work to do for that move. They always feel pretty seamless, but the teachers go through a lot. And, it's not as easy as it might seem.
Yeah, if I may, I thought it sounded like a great idea when Bob raised it. And my first reaction was, what does the principal think? And I think, you know, they're clearly the property owner in this case, and it's up to them. And I can see why, even, and the next thought I had was, well, what about mid-year, if we couldn't do it in the fall? But then again, when you think about a teacher that's running a classroom, you know, end to end for the whole school year, picking up and moving in the middle of the school year, I could imagine would be disruptive. So if the principal says they don't want to do it, then I think that's a reasonable answer.
And there's no moving in Christmas break. We're not going to break ground until the fall anyway.
No.
You know, the air conditioning's not the problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The only thought was, of course, air conditioning for the students in May and June.
Yeah,
But that's not, I'm sure, to them worth the disruptions.
Could I ask you a question? So this whole idea was based off of having air conditioning in the latter part of the year, in June, late May?
I would think that, I'm speculating, but I think the answer to that is yes. But if we go back several months, when the question was first posed, I think it was with regard to air conditioning at this time of the year when we're bringing students and staff back, and then again, the May, June time.
But we couldn't obviously do it now. But my question would be, portable units are really affordable, to be honest with you. I know there might be an electrical issue, but have we ever thought about doing that temporary fix where we have portables or whatever? Because we're talking 5 weeks. Would it be worth designing something? Because, I mean, geez, they go in the desert and cool places. I think we could do it in Richboro.
It's a good question. It's a fair question. We looked into it in the past, and the electrical service in that building just doesn't support the size units that you really need with 25 kids in a room to cool the room appropriately. They just don't.
I just did it off the cuff. Even a little window unit, you know, 12.5 amp draw, you're looking at over 300 amp draw for 25 classrooms. And those are little bit.
Yeah, and you know, and there's evidence of challenges in the electrical system, and it's all limestone from all of the, you know, supplemental units that are in there. It challenged the existing electrical service, and that's just kind of the cause of our shutdown that day we had to send kids home, big picture. But
It'll turn on once.
But how about like portable, the generators can do 5 classrooms at a time? You know, thinking outside the box, if you really want to help the kids, propose that plan that we can go in temporarily. We're talking 5 weeks, you can even rent the equipment. And
you
there's
absolutely
people out there.
could. There's TOPS units that they bring, that they put outside your building, that they duct in through windows. I mean, it's just what cost you want to pay to do it, but there is the ability to do
Well,
it.
I would ask, what's the cost of moving the school mid-year versus what it would be to do that? And maybe it's worth, we're talking 5 weeks.
The cost will be the same because you're going to move the school in June, or you're going to move the school in November or December, right? Because you have to move the school either way. So that cost is already neutral. It's just a matter of.
It's the disruption.
It's the disruption. You know, the other piece of it, and this is just another consideration, is waiting for a place. We want contractors, if we award this in February, we want contractors to start ordering anything they can as soon as they can. So we want a place to put those materials. So if they bring some trailers in to store those products, we could either find a place to put stone at Richboro Elementary School and put fence and trailers, or we could simply go across the street to the, to the former Richboro Middle School and use the back of the lot and have that as a staging area for new products until they start construction. And they can take this stuff over in the spring and start building a building. So there is value to that lot from a,
I think if you were to move mid-year, and we did award it in March, I mean, that just means we could start sooner, and we could just start. It would help construction.
well, it would definitely help construction, but we still have to procure all. They can get in and start the demolition.
But yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you were to empty the building out, you could start maybe 3 months sooner.
We would definitely get the guys started earlier on some of that work, but that's not the driving force to the December completion date as much as it is the
That's
procurement.
correct. Yeah, it would give more.
I think we could start earlier, but I don't think we finish any sooner than
No, that's
December.
correct. Yeah. And you would finish at a weird time, you would finish in like September or October, and you still couldn't make a good logistic revenue.
So,
The only thing then, to follow up, because you're right, the move is the move, regardless of when you do it, so that wouldn't counter it. But how about the energy we spend when we're in the new school? So that at least will cancel out some of it, the energy cost. The infrastructure is already there. But, it's just something, if you really want to put students first, then what does it look like to keep them cool for the 5 weeks? And what does that cost? I mean, somebody could rough it. You could just say, hey, I got this many years. Is that not what people do? I mean,
the advantage of, we try to, all I'm saying, is we'll do whatever, you ultimately decide to do. The advantage of waiting until June is that the kids finish the year without a disruption and moving in the middle of the year. So we know we're going to disrupt them again come Christmas in 24. So then they would kind of be disrupted twice. Any of those kids that aren't sixth graders will be disrupted twice. So it's nice to try to minimize that impact if you can.
well, I just want to clarify. What I was saying was leave them there through June and have a temporary fix, because if I need to, I bring in a temporary fix at the Richboro and see what that costs from a rental standpoint.
It's not just rent them and stick them in the windows. We're gonna hire union labor to open up windows and walls, duct everything in. We have to have a power supply for it, so we're looking, diesel generators at that point?
It's
Is
gonna be-
that it? I mean, is that our choice?
It'd be very expensive. Yeah, we don't have power at the building. We'd have to bring temporary service from a pole over to,
Or diesel. I mean,
or bring diesel generators in there, self-supporting. So you're gonna pay for diesel fuel, you're gonna, or natural gas
Yeah.
tanks, like you're gonna have,
and we don't know what, I mean, that's windows, that's duct.
That's a significant amount.
It's not just popping a unit in the window.
I didn't say that, as I know that, but,
Yeah.
I think it's a reasonable idea that Joe's raised.
I mean, we just got to kind of look at guys.
Yeah, I mean,
We talked about it. We've had trailers, we've had many options. If it's a no-go, then it's a no-go. What does it cost to rent a
yeah.
diesel?
I'll get some costs.
Generator
I'll just get some
for-
costs for you, and then you can.
Just what is our diesel rates of cost for 5 weeks, or you name it, 5 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
there might also be an issue of the availability of equipment too.
Yeah,
Sure.
we'll have Doug get some cost on it and let you look at it.
It could just
We
be,
have
right? I think, does Mike want to,
Level of effort with the township?
Mike, you want to speak? Mr. Roosevelt? If not, that's okay.
Yes, thank you. Is there, hearing about, I think that one of the main reasons that the community wanted to have this renovation done was for air conditioning. So discussing how to get kids air conditioning is a worthy discussion, and I'm hearing that there's disruptions that are expected. Is there any time to move the kids into Richboro Middle for the start of this year so that they don't get disrupted?
I think you were cut off while we, yeah, Mike, I think you were cut off while we just had that discussion.
Okay, okay.
And the short answer is the principal doesn't feel that the disruption is worth the benefit.
To move them now. Versus-
Well, that would be impossible, and we also discussed moving it mid-year, and basically,
Got it.
yeah.
It's like 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad it was discussed. I'm sorry if I missed it. Glad it was covered.
Good
Just wanted to
question.
raise it.
No, good question.
I'm sure there are people in the building who have already set up their classrooms.
They have,
Yeah,
Yeah, they're already ready.
Excellent.
and they're definitely not set up for the other thing.
Right.
Yeah.
anything else on Richboro?
Every summer. End of every summer with my mom.
Thank you, Doug. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? How about we move to the next discussion item, device coverage for parents via Mr. Frederickson.
So one of the things that we heard a lot last year was we had a lot of damage to Chromebooks, we had a lot of damage to chargers, and the parents are being charged for these items for the repair costs that are above and beyond or outside of the warranty. So we were asked to research finding a company that does provide some sort of accidental damage loss, theft device loss, repair costs. So we contacted my counterparts in the county. Most people are using a company called School Device Coverage.
Thank you.
And we've spent the last 6, maybe 7 weeks working with them. And the cost to the parent, and it's optional, they don't have to do this, but we can offer this program to parents. It's $44 for the year. If the student were to be issued a new Chromebook, they would not have to repay the $44. It would automatically cover whatever device the student has. So it's a one-time payment each year, $44. It's paid directly to SDC. It doesn't cost the district any money. It costs us a little bit of time in terms of tracking and shipping the Chromebooks back, but there's no cost involved on our part. The money is paid directly to them. And then we can track through portals. They have their own Chromebook part company that they use. They have their own repair company that they use. The IT directors that I spoke to in the county who use the service love it.
What did you, give us a rough, what did you spend on repairs and stuff on?
Last year, when all was said and done, we spent probably around $125,000.
And none of that got recouped from people that broke?
I don't know because it wasn't being tracked properly in the business office, so we don't know.
Okay. But even this is parents taking on that charge.
If they choose to.
Right.
So in other words, what happens is the parent chooses not to take on the charge, and they decide to place the Chromebook in an oven and turn the oven on, which happened. They would be charged the full price for replacing the Chromebook, which right now we're looking at probably around $500.
Sounds like pandemic collateral damage. It's a joke. Sorry. So, what are we doing then? We're not going to put this on as a item. We're just going to discuss it tonight. What would you
Yeah,
look
so
for
tonight,
from
it's
us?
just, if the board's okay with me moving forward, I'll get a contract from the company to Rob for his review. What we do is, at the September board meeting, you would vote to either approve it and launch the process, or you would vote, no, we don't want to do it. If you vote yes to launch the process, there's a parent portal, we would advertise that to parents, they could log on, the whole 9 yards.
Can they go mid-year? Can they sign on anytime, or is there a window to enter the program?
They can sign on any time, but it's $44.
$44.
So it's not going to be prorated if they wait till the last month to sign on. Like if they break the Chromebook and then decide to sign on and then bring the broken Chromebook to school, it's probably not going to work.
Okay. Any objections or questions?
It will be tried.
No, I don't have an objection to this. I think this is great because we cannot absorb $125,000 of repairs for Chromebooks. And if we're absorbing it, then to everyone we hand them to, those things are valueless because it's not their responsibility. So
I'll just play devil's advocate. So we talked about proms and people not being able to afford prom. What about for this insurance for people? Because the prom's probably like...
Well, I think actually providing the insurance is a better thing to do than just
Yeah.
penalize them with no option.
we're not going to provide it, we're going to provide them the option to pay for it themselves, I'm saying. If they
Right,
financially
right, but
need-
it's a lot, the insurance is a lot cheaper than replacing the.
And it's their
device.
choice.
Right, but I'm saying, you know how we were saying, hey, there was some talk about not
There
letting
are
people behind.
students that are identified in the district that have issues
Yeah.
that they're taking care of.
So that's already a board policy
We're already doing it.
All right,
for all different things, including this. So if you qualify, then, okay, well, that was just kind of,
We work very closely with Mike and Steph, the social workers, they let us know.
okay.
I think it's a
appreciate
great
that.
option for parents.
yeah.
And let them make the choice, and people who like to take some insurance, they're gonna opt into this.
I guarantee I would have bought it.
From a parent perspective in a neighboring district, we did buy. I
Mhm.
don't know that it was the same vehicle, but
Yeah,
we made sure we did buy because we know what the cost of the device is.
As someone who sent kids to Disney and stuff, we bought the travel insurance too.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
Mhm.
you don't know what's going on, so this is.
It's a good offering. I'm all for it.
Thanks, Matt, for getting into that.
Okay, this will be on the agenda then.
Okay,
You know,
for a vote, but not on consent, of course.
there's 5 here, yeah, it doesn't have to be on consent, but yeah, there's 5 Hildago here.
Give the other people the chance to ask questions.
Thank you, Matt.
I thought there was other people in the audience. Are we postponing any more discussion on the agenda? Good one.
Now, they were our transportation manager and representatives of Durham, but we do not have transportation on the agenda tonight.
Okay. That being said, there are no members of the public here to discuss or to have any comments. So if there's any other, is there any other comments from the board or group? If not, then I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
Mr. Roosevelt.
Mr. Roosevelt, please, before I adjourn, anything for the good of the cause?
I'm good, thanks very much.
All right. Well, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Thank you.
evening.
So I thought the key idea was splendid. I really did.